And I think we are live. Good afternoon. I hope the weather's good for you today. The weather here in Northumberland is very blowy, very blustery, but it's not too cold. And today our little talk is about, our Facebook Live, is about busting some of those anxiety myths. There's loads and loads of fake stuff about when it comes to anxiety, mainly because people don't know how to deal with people who've got anxiety. And although they're probably trying their best, they don't know really what to do or how to handle it. So we thought we'd bust some of those myths. So first of all, thank you for everybody who sent us questions. We do get lots of them and we do love them, so keep them coming in. This way we know what sort of content you'd like. Hi Si, nice to see you. By the way guys, when you can hear me, when you can see me, please say hello. It really helps, just so I know that you can hear what's going on. So yes, back to questions. We love your questions. They help us to know what sort of content you'd like, what sort of questions you'd like answered. So please keep them coming, and we shall answer those as best as we can. If it's something you don't want to share with everybody else, you can of course just send me a private message and I'll answer that the best I can. So we're just waiting for a couple more people. That's it. Another couple of people have jumped on board now. That's good. So today, myths about anxiety. Let's answer a few of these. So the first one we've got, and I hear this one very, very often, is you have to learn to live with anxiety, or you have to learn to cope with anxiety. That's a big thing. Most of the clients who come to see me, you've got to understand, have been through counseling, they've been through CBT, they've tried medication, they've tried lots of other things. It's not worked for them. And they all say the same thing, is that the doctors just said, look, you need to learn to get on with it. You need to learn to cope with it. And I've got to say that is absolute rubbish. I don't want to knock what the doctors or the counsellors or the CBT people are saying, but I used to have anxiety and I've totally got over it. I had it really bad as a child. It was so bad I had a really awful stammer. I had low self-confidence. And I think once I got the right tools, remember I did this on my own, I didn't have anybody helping me. Once I got the right tools together to handle all of these problems, it was probably about 6 months for me to go from having severe anxiety to nothing. It took a lot of research. Now, anxiety is a natural pattern. You've got to understand that we go through lots of mental states during the day. Sometimes we feel confident, we feel tired, we feel anxious, we feel calm. However, an anxiety problem is when anxiety sticks all of the time. So anxiety is naturally there, but if you have it all of the time, that's a problem. And that's when we need to go and get help for it to get it sorted out. So yes, you don't have to learn to cope with it. What we need to do is we need to learn how to control our emotions, our feelings, and to stay in a good state, which is the opposite to anxiety. We need to be calm and relaxed. So most of the clients that I see who come to us, they get anxiety or they have anxiety problems, and usually within 90 days you'll find they're totally in control of it. Yes, the anxiety might come in, they might go to work and something happens, but they then use the tools that we teach them just to take it away and to replace it with feeling calm and confident. And that's quite normal. Some people do take longer, some people take an awful lot less. It really depends where you are. But for all sorts of anxiety, we do see a massive reduction usually within the first 4 weeks, and then 90 days we expect it to be gone. One of the things that I learned very early on in my NLP training was that if we tell people certain things, it programs them. Our mind is beautiful. It's got this lovely ability to be programmed and patterned. A lot of people don't like this. However, we can change our own programming, our own patterns. Unlike other animals out there, we can change how we feel, we can change what's going on in there, but also other people can do the same. So if we turn around to somebody and say, look, you're going to have anxiety for the rest of your life, they're going to believe that. It sticks it in there, it makes the problem worse. And this is one of the problems we see. I don't want to knock any other type of counseling, but one of the problems we see with psychology is that they constantly keep telling us silly things like this, that change is going to take a long time, you're going to be stuck with it for life. And people do believe that. It's been seen so much that people have been diagnosed with a disease and they take on all the symptoms to then a few months later be told, sorry, we made a mistake, you've got something else. And then they take on a lot of other symptoms. Our mind is very powerful and it does believe what we tell it, whether we tell it or somebody else does. So we have to be careful with that programming. But the truth of the matter is there is hope everybody can get over anxiety. It really depends if you're willing to put the work in, if you're willing to go and get some help and to put a little bit of practice in. Number 2, you can pull yourself together. This is one of the most annoying things when people have problems and the people say, oh, just pull yourself together. And it sounds like common sense. Again, I suppose it's because the people who are telling us to do that don't understand what's going on. But usually when we've got a state of anxiety, when we can't move things about, if we can't get where we need to be, it really means that we're stuck. You know, when we're stuck in a state of anxiety, we're not moving forward, and really we need some help with that. And somebody telling us just to pull yourself together really doesn't help at all. So most people with anxiety are stuck. They don't know how to move forward. They haven't got a program to change things. They don't know how to relax. They don't know how to move from one state to the other. And it's really about, you need to get the right help. Telling somebody just to get on with it or just to get over it or whatever it is that they're telling you really doesn't help. So please don't tell people who've got these problems just to get over it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Number 3, the big myth number 3 is anxiety is caused by a bad experience. And the answer is kind of yes and no. If we do go through a traumatic time in our lives, it can cause anxiety. I had a client a few months ago who'd been bullied ridiculously at school, had left school without doing the exams, and that had caused a permanent state of anxiety, but we managed to sort that out pretty quickly. However, other people can get anxiety and not know where it's come from. And it can be caused by a number of different reasons. We can spend forever looking at those, but that usually doesn't help us to move forward. But just to give you a couple of ideas, if we're around somebody else who has severe anxiety, that can cause us to take on that state of anxiety. So about 4 or 5 clients recently have told me that their anxiety has started to overspill onto their kids, and the kids are displaying the same symptoms, the same patterns of anxiety, which is one of the reasons why we need to sort it out quickly rather than passing it on to others. But we can pick it up from other people. My mother is a very anxious person, and I'm sure that's where I got it from. There can be other things that can trigger anxiety. This can be foods, it can be environmental factors, it can be the TV, would you believe? I've had people who've seen something nasty on the telly suddenly get almost like PTSD. So it'd be triggered by lots of different things. But it can also be caused by nutritional deficiencies. It could just be that we have a short-term problem and we get stuck in that state all the time. So there's lots of reasons why we can get anxiety. However, to put it right, we don't have to keep dragging up the past and going into all of that. So it doesn't have to be caused by something that's happened in the past. Some people just get anxious and they don't know why. We can spend forever looking for it, but it really isn't necessary. It's better just to get on and sort out what we need to do to put it right. 4, you need to have to resolve the past. Now, again, a lot of psychologists, I saw a lady the other day who'd been for 13 or 15 different sessions with a certain therapist, and one of the problems was they were dragging them back to this childhood memory, trying to resolve it. It wasn't happening, but each time this happened, it made things worse. This isn't uncommon. You know, if you've got a bad time in your life and you constantly go back through it and you replay it in your mind, it sort of strengthens that neural network. We do grow that neural path in our mind, and it makes things worse. And it's really not the best way to do it. There are, however, some techniques that we use to take away emotion from problems that we do get a bit stuck on, but actually we can spend more time focusing on the future, how we want to feel, how we want to be, to get much better results. We need to put most of that time and effort into where we want to be rather than all the problems of the past. And this can be one of the issues. I see an awful lot of people with anxiety hanging around on Facebook in anxiety support groups, and all they talk about is anxiety, anxiety, anxiety. And the result is you get more anxiety. Whatever we focus on is what we get. And it should be focusing on, let's try a new relaxation technique. Let's go for a new walk. Let's try a new diet. And again, this is it. So no, we don't have to keep dragging up the past. We don't have to resolve the issues. And very often doing that makes things far, far worse. Number 5, anxiety only affects certain types of people, such as Snowflake, so word I hate at the moment. No, that's not true. We have clients from all walks of life. I have an awful lot of NHS clients at the moment. Doctors, nurses, professionals. We have a lot of business people. We have mums, we have dads, we have people employed, unemployed. It can affect anybody. Anxiety can affect anybody at all at any time of life as well. You don't have to be a certain type at all. I hate this snowflake type thing that people are sensitive, empathetic, caring. No, that's not where anxiety comes from. It can affect anybody. And the daft thing is, I've had quite a few clients who have kind of been the sort of person who have labeled people as snowflakes, or that this anxiety thing's silly, and then they come in and say, I feel anxious, I've got all these problems, but I'm a strong, caring, get going type person. And I say, yeah, it can affect anyone. You don't have to do that. And that confuses them, especially with men. Men don't like to ask for help. But when you have anxiety, you need to go and get some help from it. Otherwise, it will get worse. 6, is it easy to see if somebody has anxiety? Well, no. A lot of people expect that people who have anxiety are constantly biting the nails, scratching all the time, pulling the hairs. No, some people are very, very good at hiding it, or are anxious inside. It's that old picture, I wish I had one at the moment, of the duck or the swan paddling across the lake, and it looks so graceful and calm, but underneath they're paddling like crazy. And that's what anxiety can be like, is that it affects different people. I've seen people who can stand up and speak in front of lots and lots of people who just couldn't cope with other situations. Anxiety can affect anyone, and it's not always easy to see. People react in different ways. Some people have different symptoms. Some people just can't sleep. Some people, the digestive system doesn't work. So it's not always easy to see if somebody's got anxiety. Number 7, medication doesn't help anxiety. And the answer is yes and no. For an awful lot of people, if they're in an emergency state, if they're feeling suicidal, if they're not in a good place, then medication is useful and it's helpful. However, we have a habit here in the UK that people go to the doctor, they say I've got anxiety, and they're put onto medication when nothing else has been tried before. We always like a quick fix. We always want a magic pill. We don't like to look at our diet, our lifestyle, what we're doing wrong that maybe is causing the anxiety, or how to put it right. So medication is important, especially in emergency situations. It helps lots and lots of people. The challenges with medication is that it doesn't stay the same. You can understand that you start with your medication and it calms you down about here, but then slowly over time, the effectiveness can drop way, way down. Other times, medication can make things worse. I've had a number of clients who started a new medication and they were going through the roof. Medication is not something I deal with. It should be dealt with by your professional, GP, whoever you're seeing about it. What I do say to clients is that once you get in control of your anxiety and you're starting to feel better, then I can work with your GP to slowly reduce it down and feel better. Lots of people tell me anxiety makes it worse, jumps about, causes all sorts of problems. It's not the only treatment out there. There's lots of other things. I know we're now starting to see that certain foods, certain supplements can be just as effective with a lot of mental health problems as can medication, except they don't have the side effects. And that's one of the problems why people do come to me to say, I'm taking this, it fixes it, but I've constantly got a bad stomach, my digestive system doesn't work, I've got headaches, I feel dizzy, blah, blah, blah. So medication's a funny one. It does work and it doesn't work. It can be useful, but it can also cause problems. Number 8, will anxiety get better over time, or anxiety will get better over time is the usual myth. And the answer to that, again, is yes and no. Sometimes kids get anxiety and they just seem to grow out of it. However, we do find for an awful lot of people, the longer that those anxiety patterns are working and running, is that it starts to get stronger and stronger. Again, in the mind, it's rewiring itself, it's building those neural pathways. And the more we practice any pattern, the stronger it becomes. It's a bit like smoking. The more you practice a habit, the harder it is to give it up. So it doesn't naturally get better on its own. The best thing to do is to get some help. If you're putting some work in daily, if you're doing some exercise, if you're changing your diet, if you're keeping away from negative media, then it can get better, but I would strongly suggest that you get some help and make it get better over time, but let's do it quickly rather than slowly. Next question. This is a big one. Lots of people say to me that they've been told or programmed that effective therapy or counselling will take years and years of work. Now, it's a bit different here in the UK, but in America, I know a lot of people seem to like the attention of going to a counsellor for quite a long time. They seem to get something out of it, the attention, and they expect that they're going to be in therapy for year after year after year. In the UK, it's not as bad. However, again, an awful lot of therapists are saying to people, yes, it's going to take a couple of years to get this sorted. People just go there, they sit, they talk, they go through it again and again. And I have to say that's not true. Most of the clients that we see seem to get this sorted within 90 days. Usually I'll be in touch with them 4 or 5 times over that period. There's homework and things to do, but we seem to do it an awful lot faster. The other benefit is if you do it quickly, it saves you thousands and thousands of pounds. If you're paying privately for a therapist, it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be expensive. So you want to try and find somebody who's going to work within the goals that you've got, rather than taking forever to get it fixed. We know the mind works so much better when it learns quickly. Isn't that scary? It works so much better when we learn quickly. We do it as kids at school. Why we have to drag therapy out for years or counselling, I don't know. But again, that's another myth. Number 10, anxiety can't be treated quickly. Suppose it's the same question. In fact, it can, and I'll give you some examples. So I deal with all sorts of different types of anxiety. I know the NHS and counsellors like to label different types of anxiety. There's social anxiety, there's generalized anxiety disorder, blah, blah, blah. To me, it really doesn't make much difference. What I'm looking at is what's going on in the mind, what are the physical symptoms, and what we can do to put it better. So to give you some examples, I've had a number of people who've come to me about driving anxiety, either being in a car or actually driving them themselves. Usually there's something that triggers that off at some point. Maybe they've had an accident or something that was unpleasant went on in the car. However, I've brought somebody in, we've said, let's do it in, say, 3 sessions, and they go through it, they feel much better. And then I get a message or a phone call or a text or something about 4 hours later to say, hey, I've just driven up to somewhere and we've had a meal and it's fantastic. Thank you so much. So that is amazingly quickly. Food anxiety, have had exactly the same, where people have gone and they just can't swallow the food. 1 session and then a message a couple of hours later next day to say, hey, I managed to eat a full meal last night. That was fantastic. I was nice and relaxed and I really enjoyed the sensation. Social anxiety comes in lots of different ways. Sometimes it's being out in awful big crowds. Sometimes it's just a case of having the confidence to talk to other people. And again, using the techniques that we need. It's a bit like we just switch. We get a switch and we switch it on and people go out and feel differently. And again, within a day or 2, I've had people said, wow, I managed to do this, fantastic. But we still work to make it better, to get it where it needs to be. Health anxiety is a major one at the moment. People sitting there watching the telly. I know in America they're watching all these drug adverts about take this to feel better, and they think they've got these problems. They then go on to Google or wherever it is and search for the problems and then think, I've got this health issue, I've got that one. Cancer's a major one at the moment. And again, I've had people message me within a couple of days and say, hey, I've just slept like a baby. I'm not worried at all, because we've got lots of things we can do to interrupt those patterns. Alcohol, lots of people who've come to me with anxiety about alcohol problems. You know, all these things are mixed together. We've had the same with drugs. I've had the same with spiders. We can fix some of these problems very, very quickly. Sometimes it can be within a day or 2. Quite often with anxiety, as I say, it's a program of 90 days or less to get it sorted, because this is a pattern that you've had for a long time. However, if you come to us and we fix your anxiety in 90 days and you've suffered with it for 10 years, I would say that's a fast return. However, I've got to say, different people work at different speeds and results are never typical. However, putting this stuff into practice and you putting it in there will make a difference. So again, with an awful lot of people, they get stuck. They get stuck in a pattern, they get stuck in a routine, and it causes all these issues. And it's about just getting some help and moving it on. Now, one of the things I like to think with anxiety is that it's just a symptom. Anxiety isn't the problem. Anxiety is the symptom. There's usually something wrong in your life of why you've got anxiety. Yes, it could be an emotional issue from the past. It could be that it's something to do with your diet, your lifestyle, your exercise, your environment. It could be somebody else that's triggering this off. And a big part of what we do is we help you to recognize those triggers and then to move forward, to interrupt those patterns and to bring in those feelings of calm and relaxation. It can be all sorts of things that are causing these issues, but let's focus on moving things forward and getting things put right. And the best way to resolve this is simply you need to make that first step and you need to decide that you want to get some help. Now, we're very, very picky. Now, this is a big question people ask us all the time. Can I help everybody? The answer is no. You have to be at the right position. You have to, at some point, make that decision to say, I've had enough of this and I'm going to move on. For me, that day was, I was 16. I'd been up to the hospital, the Freeman Hospital in Newcastle, and they sat down with me and my dad and said, look, we're going to put you on disability. We've given you all these drugs. None of these are helping. The anxiety wasn't the main issue. It was I was having 7 or 8 asthma attacks a day, allergy problems, intolerances, size of a house. I was very depressed. The anxiety was kind of caused by all of that. But I just made a decision on that day. I had no idea how to do it. I just said, that's it. I've had enough. I need to find a way to sort this. And I set a goal that I was going to become a disc jockey and move forward so I could stand up in front of people and talk to them without that bloody stammer. So I could say words beginning with S and K. And it was that decision that was the big thing. It wasn't everything else. That all helped. But it was just I made that decision. And at that point, I didn't know there was any help. I didn't know doctors. And it probably very good that I didn't go to the doctor to sort the anxiety. But I picked up some books on self-hypnosis and NLP and hypnotherapy. I looked at a lot of psychology, and I spent 2 years going through looking at what worked and what didn't. But by the time I was 18, I started a mobile disco business. I was standing up in front of people. I was standing up public speaking. A very, very different person because I could switch on confidence and calm and relaxation on demand. It didn't just happen overnight. I had to work at it. But it all goes back to this decision. At some point, people say, that's it, I've had enough. I need to make things work. And when people come to us and they say, I'd like one of your strategy sessions, we go through and see if they're ready to do that. Because we don't want to waste your time and your money if you're not ready to move forward. You need to be committed to do that. So on that note, if you'd like a free strategy session with me, you can either send me a PM message or you can leave a comment. Just saying strategy session. And what I'll do is I'll get in touch with you. We arrange about a 20-30 minute phone call just to go through your anxiety to say exactly what the problem is, how it affects you. We also look at how you'd like your life to be, what you'd like to do in your life. And we just discuss all these different areas. And that allows me to decide, first of all, if we're going to be a good fit, same for you, but then also to see if it's something I can help with. We can't help with everything. It might be we refer you to somebody else. I do have other colleagues who do certain different things. However, for most anxiety, I like to look at it and see if you're ready to move forward. And then if so, then we can talk about the Anxiety Freedom Program to help you to move forward. And in a very short period of time, of 90 days or less, most people are feeling very, very different. So if that's something that interests you, drop me a PM or comment in the comments, just strategy session, something like that, and we can work on that by all means. Finally, we have lots and lots of other videos like this with lots of tips. If you'd like to have a look at those, look for our YouTube channel. I will post a comment in the comment section with a link to it, and if you subscribe to that as well, you'll find there's lots of other videos being added all the time, and you'll get those before anybody else. So I think I've answered all of the questions that we've got in. If you would like any help or support or have a question, please drop me a message or a comment. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope that's been helpful, and we'll have another Facebook Live soon. Take care.